Hi, what's up? My name is Adam, and you are on Cyber Raccoon channel. Today I'm going to tell you about the top best games based on books. Watch the video to the end, subscribe our channel, and you will always be aware of what to play today. The Witcher. The Witcher series raised the bar for role-playing games very high. Last but not least, the developers managed to do this thanks to the stunning script and the accuracy with which they depicted the world created by Andrzej Sapkowski. The games in the series are a continuation of the story told in the novels. The world of The Witcher, like the White Wolf itself, long before the release of the games hooked fantasy fans, especially from Eastern Europe, because Sapkowski was based on medieval realities and related mythology. But the most amazing thing in his books, as well as in the games based on them, is the live characters, the display in the fantasy world of the problems of the real world, the plot, which is not only entertaining, but also makes you think. STALKER. The story of the Strugatsky brothers' roadside picnic has changed the world of fantastic literature and action games. At first, this story gave rise to several film adaptations, among which the most notable Painting by Tarkovsky, many sequels and imitations. In 2007, the history of the STALKER shooter series began, which raised Ukrainian game development to a new level. The action takes place in the exclusion zone near the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, which is filled with anomalies, mutants and artifacts. The games in the series have received a bunch of awards and have also acquired a series of books, collections of stories, written by different authors. Metro 2033. The same guys who gave us STALKER had a hand in the development of the exemplary FPS Metro 2033. The game is based on the book by Dmitry Glukhovsky, which has become one of the best post-apocalyptic novels in the history of the genre. The plot of the book and the game tells about one of the most powerful fears of modern mankind, the consequences of a nuclear war. Almost all the action takes place in the Moscow metro because it is protected from radiation, but nevertheless sometimes people living at the stations have to get out to the surface. Eerie tunnels, a war between survivors, mysterious incidents, and an atmosphere of total hopelessness await players. Penumbra. It is unlikely that the horror genre would have become what we know it today without Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Although the talent and violent imagination of the writer were not appreciated by his contemporaries, now the name of Lovecraft was heard even by those who did not hold his books in their hands. There are quite a few games based on the works of Lovecraft, because it would be foolish not to use the mythology he created when developing horror games. Penumbra is one of the best series inspired by the writer's work. Eerie secrets, a chilling atmosphere, ugly monsters, and many more horrors are attached. Shooter Spec Ops. The line tells the story of the natural disaster that overtook Dubai. John Conrad, commander of the U.S. Army Infantry Battalion, is sent to help the survivors of the disaster. However, Conrad disappears, and the main character, Captain Martin Walker, is sent in search of him. The attentive player will find many parallels between Spec Ops, The Line, Heart of Darkness, and Apocalypse Now. All three works are a journey into the very essence of human consciousness, in which you will have to face the darkest sides of the soul and real madness. Enslaved, Oddysey to the West. Journey to the West is one of the highly respected works of classical Chinese literature in the 16th century. This is a hilarious, albeit quite informative novel, which tells the story of the adventures of the monk Xuanzang during his trip to India. The creators of Enslaved were inspired by this story and decided to make a game based on it, but they just added post-apocalyptic landscapes, lasers, robots, and other things that are completely uncharacteristic of the medieval East. But many plot twists and characters remain the same. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. A series of tactical shooters. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six is based on the novel by the American writer Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, which became a bestseller in the year of its release. The book told about the eponymous international anti-terrorist unit. Both the book and the games have enough drive. The plot of the game is deeply thought out, so it is not difficult to immerse yourself in what is happening and feel like a real agent of a secret organization. The Lord of the Rings Online. Even someone who has never been an ardent fan of Tolkien, has not studied the history of the universe he created, and does not know all its subtleties, has an idea of how everything works in it, because nowadays it is difficult to meet a person who has not seen the trilogy The Lord of the Rings. And in The Lord of the Rings Online, a cult MMORPG with all that it implies, you yourself can feel like a part of this world and even witness the events that you have already read about. Alice Madness Returns is a story-driven continuation of the American McGee's Alice action game. Who is Alice and where did she come from? We think you have already guessed. But the games about her tell a completely different story. Alice lost her parents during a terrible fire, which seriously affected her psyche. After being discharged from a psychiatric hospital, she lives in an orphanage and continues to hallucinate. To heal, she will have to deal with the evil that has penetrated into the Wonderland. Call of Cthulhu. Again, a game inspired by Lovecraft, whose works are considered a separate genre. The story The Call of Cthulhu, published in 1928, became one of the key works that shaped the mythology that the writer created. Horror RPG Call of Cthulhu 2018 does not repeat the plot of the story of the same name, but the world invented by Lovecraft shows very accurately and atmospheric. The player will have to investigate a mysterious murder, and on the way to pump skills, face scary and mysterious things and gradually go crazy. Ken Follett's The Pillars of the Earth. The novel The Pillars of the Earth was published in 1989 by the writer Ken Follett, and his creation took 33rd place in the top 100 best books according to the BBC. Fortunately, the book did not go unnoticed. It led to the wonderful adventure quest Ken Follett's The Pillars of the Earth, which users liked, judging by the thousands of very positive reviews on Steam. You find yourself in 7th century England. The lives of three people, the monk Philip, the boy Jack and the daughter of the Earl Aliena, are suddenly intertwined when one of them decides to build one of the greatest cathedrals in the country amid war and poverty. The story is presented in 3 parts, and the player will have to complete tasks in the point-and-click style, visit more than 200 hand-drawn locations, and make decisions with consequences, which allows you to disrupt the course of the plot from the book. Agatha Christie, The ABC Murders. The writer Agatha Christie, who made a huge contribution to literature with her detectives, also received attention from the gaming industry. As of early spring 2021, the Agatha Christie series of games includes 7 projects, and the last one, titled The ABC Murders, was released in 2016. All of them are puzzles where you, in the person of the famous detective Hercule Poirot, will investigate the mysterious cases described on the pages of the novel. For example, the ABC Murders is based on the alphabet murders. In Peril at End House you will try to find out who is trying to kill the innocent Miss Bulky, and in Evil Under the Sun Poirot's vacation plans will be thwarted by the next deed. In general, we recommend it to fans of exciting detective stories. Sherlock Holmes is a character who has had a huge impact on the detective world as a whole. The library of games with him has over 20 projects, and among them there are both simple quests and rather dark adventures of the AAA level, where you have to use all your deduction and solve various intricate crimes alone or with a faithful partner. A Study in Scarlet, The Hound of the Baskervilles, and many other works about the detective form the basis of these games. And even more, for example, the game Sherlock Holmes. Chapter 1 touches on Sherlock's teenage years, when he returns to his hometown after the death of his mother and begins to use deductive skills for the first time to solve a large-scale conspiracy. Nancy Drew, Midnight in Salem. The 2 previous detectives are accompanied by a young girl, Nancy Drew, who also uses her intelligence and ingenuity to unravel various cases. Books about her were published by a group of writers under the common pseudonym Carolyn Keene, and a total of 33 games based on them in the genre of classic quest were published. Nancy has a difficult job to do: interrogate suspects, collect evidence, travel to various places, and solve puzzles. The games are mainly aimed at children and women, according to statistics. have managed to attract huge attention from girls to games and the gaming industry in general. I have no mouth, and I Must Scream is a time-tested graphic quest based on the story of the same name by Harlan Ellison. The plot is interesting. The supercomputer, which was created by people, turned out to be too smart and eventually destroyed almost all of humanity, leaving only 5 people alive. They will have to prove that cars are still stupider than people, overcoming their fears in the metaphorical cyber world, which an unusual antagonist has created for them. In terms of gameplay, this is a classic quest with finding key items, communicating with NPCs, exploring various locations, and making moral choices. The player will often have to choose between good and evil, and if the result of this choice is death, then he will have to start over. The roguelike The Binding of Isaac does not take as a basis any particular literary work, but relies on the Bible itself, referring us to the biblical story of the same name. Also, a kind of game based on the book. We have to play for the boy Isaac, whom his mother wanted to kill at the behest of the voice of God. Hiding in the basement, the hero finds adventures much worse. You have to wander through the basement floors, clear rooms, look for artifacts, and be indignant at defeat, since death is irreversible here and returns the player to the very beginning. The Dune series of games consists of fantastic strategies with quest elements, and the plot and game world are based on the novel of the same name by Frank Herbert. The game has become a classic in its genre and, despite its age, still delights fans of this universe. Dune throws the gamer into a fantastic future, where he will take part in the confrontation between the 2 dominant houses. The gameplay includes all the classic elements of the genre, but the presence of quests, as well as communication with characters, travel around the planet, makes it deeper and more interesting. Shadow Complex. The 2D Metroidvania-style action Shadow Complex has literary roots. For example, the game was clearly influenced by the fantasy novel Empire by Orson Scott Card, which tells the story of the Second American Civil War. We will play as the traveler Jason Fleming, who accidentally gets involved in events that should lead to the mentioned conflict, but it is not too late to prevent this. Armed with high-tech toys, the player will take a walk through the mysterious world and take part in dynamic battles from which the heartbeat quickens. Also, one cannot fail to note the graphics and full-fledged physics, which contributes to the gameplay. The release took place in 2009, but in 2016 Remastered was released with improved visuals and a couple of other innovations, which will surely delight modern gamers. If your favorite game is not included in this list, write in the comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel, press like, turn on notifications, and you will always be aware of what to play today.